Hello viewers and welcome to Economic Forum. This is a program that takes an in-depth look at different aspects of the Zimbabwean economy. My name is Foster and I am your host. Tonight we shall be looking at the retail sector, and to help us unpack some of the issues we have invited to the studio Mr. DENFORD MUTASHU, the President of the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers Association. Mr. MUTASHU, good evening and welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Could you start by telling us what the role of your organization, the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers Association, is, its membership and other mandates?
The Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers is a member-based organization which, among other things, seeks to promote sustainability, viability of the retail sector, of course looking at interrogating policy issues and its environment. We also do a lot of engagement with other stakeholders, like the biggest stakeholder is the government. We will be proposing policies that we feel and believe will help propagate the growth of the sector. And of course, the coordination that we also conduct is engaging with the membership in trying to ensure that they practice, fair business practices as well as fair pricing, and to protect the interests of the consumers while balancing that with viability.
Would you say membership to your organization is voluntary or it's statutory?
Membership to our organization is voluntary, and any trader can be a member of CZR, whether you are a tuck shop owner, or you are an SME, or you are a big store with a wider branch network. And that explains why some of our members have got a membership of, rather, branch network of up to 33 branches across the country.
And given the voluntary nature of your organization, do you have enough clout to enforce any decisions that your organization may take? You spoke about fair pricing and other issues. Do you have enough mechanisms to enforce those decisions?
We don't use clout per se, but we use persuasion and dialogue and engagement with the membership, and especially at the highest level of management. We engage whenever we feel that certain issues or certain policies have not been implemented, and this is the reason why we adopt the issue of engagement across, because it has worked since our formation, and it is certainly continuing to work. For example, whenever we have had price increases, they have not increased their margins, and it's actually a product of the dialogue that takes place behind the scenes.
Something that a lot of our viewers may find it difficult to believe when you talk about the issue of pricing. But beyond that, what forms of interactions or partnerships do you have with other industry bodies such as the CZI, ZNCC, the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe, which is the watchdog body responsible for issues around pricing? What kind of interactions do you get up to in order to ensure that the consumer or the ordinary person is able to afford some of the basic commodities?
When you look at the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe, they are a very integral component of our existence, because the retail sector survives because of consumers. And we are the point of interface between the consumer and the manufacturer, and hence our relationship has got to be even much stronger with our consumers. Our interaction with Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries as well as Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce, the relationship is very strong and vibrant, and we meet quite regularly to discuss policy issues. And a lot of the times also when we are engaging with government, we a lot of the times go as various sector representatives, but of course they're looking at the issues that will be affecting various sectors at a particular time. If you look at Buy Zimbabwe, for example, we have actually been spearheading the buy local campaigns in every respect, and just like the tentative years, the sector has actually done a lot of work to support local manufacturers, even though at that particular time we had a proliferation of imports that were actually coming through, a lot of them being smuggled into the country. But our membership does not stock goods that may have been smuggled into the country. Our first point of call to do purchases, to do buying, is the local manufacturers.
We are in the second segment of Economic Forum, and tonight we are looking at the retail sector with the president of the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers, Mr. DENFORD MUTASHU. Before we went for the break, you were talking about the issues surrounding the competitiveness of Zimbabwean-made commodities. Could you explain further on that?
The issue that we've been talking about is the issue of competitiveness, the doing business environment, the general input costs, rising input costs at plant level, and the difficulties that manufacturers and producers face in accessing raw materials owing to the foreign currency challenges in the economy. At some stage, we were moving at 1:1, the currency regime, and this was now, of course, moved by the recently pronounced monetary policy, which has floated the exchange rate, where it leaves the fundamentally it leaves the price of foreign currency to be dictated by the market, which likely has been called for by business. What we have is a scenario of a willing buyer, willing seller, as far as that market is concerned. But if you look back at the willing buyer, willing seller, this is the same fundamental that never worked on land. So to believe that it will work on foreign currency, it may be very difficult, and it will certainly then have a scenario where we have too many buyers chasing too few sellers. And this has largely been the case on the interbank. A lot of manufacturers, a lot of retailers, a lot of players, businesses have complained that they have not been able to access foreign currency via that market. And yet, this is one of the issues that we thought we had resolved, the issue of allocation or misallocation thereof. So, as a country, we cannot pin all our hopes on an exchange rate. We need to be doing more to improve competitiveness. For example, we need to seriously pursue retooling initiatives. I'm quite happy that the government has been engaging the Afreximbank in order to access some facilities that will go towards retooling, especially when you are looking at exporters. But I think overall, we need an industrial development plan which should have actually succeeded Zima said. Remember, we had Zima said. Now, that policy gap may actually be interpreted otherwise by the market, because we need something that drives us to 2030, the Vision 2030, where we are saying we want to become a upper middle income economy by 2030.
Mr. MUTASHU, the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Professor Retooling Issues, has spoken out against how some retailers are charging or pegging their prices on the black market rate of the US dollar. What is your response to that as the head of the organization representing retailers?
The challenge that we have is that the minister seems to be focusing on the tail end of the value chain without addressing the fundamental issues that the value chain players may be facing. And the procurement of foreign currency happens throughout the value chain in terms of the production processes. The manufacturers, their suppliers, their producers will procure foreign currency at a market that they can access it. Obviously, if they fail to access foreign currency via the official market, they use the alternative market. And the
And
alternative...
by alternative market, you mean the black market?
The black market, whether you call it grey, yellow or black, but that is an alternative market that has actually been growing in form and
Are you
stature.
saying your members are trading on the black market?
I'm not saying our members are trading on the parallel market, but I'm saying generally the economy has chosen to focus on that particular market since the foreign currency from the interbank has not been sufficient, and that's the reality. So what we have in the first place is we also wonder how that market tends to grow each and every day and still be able to hold so much money to be able to supply the whole market. But my point going forward, to speak to the minister's call for pricing, I think retailers are price takers in the majority of cases. If you look at sugar, by their own admission, the sugar processors indicated that they increased sugar by more than 120% in the last 2-3 months. So what you then have is a situation where the formal retail and wholesale simply puts between 10 and 15% as markup, in addition to the 120% price increase that have been necessitated by the supplier. If you look at flour, pre-packed flour, it has gone up. A box used to sell at $45 is now going for $60. So that price increase is quite huge, but it may have been necessitated by other variations or explanations at the supplier side. But on our end, what we firmly believe is that as a sector, we've got a huge role to play in rather towards the economic revival and economic development and growth.
As a country that is producing a lot of foodstuffs, what role do you think the agricultural sector can play? Surely we cannot be struggling to be importing cooking oil and other edibles. What role do you think the agricultural sector can play?
The agricultural sector is quite integral to the growth of this country, to the growth of the economy, insofar as the issue of land use is concerned. We need to improve land utilization. If you look at what we are producing out of the land that we have, it's not in sync with what we can be able to produce. For example, I can talk of wheat production. I can talk of soybeans production. We are not doing enough. Hence, our huge import bill on those critical products into the economy.
Given the problems that we have been talking about, the need for retooling, the issues to do with the acquiring foreign currency, how do you think Zimbabwe can overcome that and be able to get back on track?
We need to have a robust export strategy, which is buttressed by an import substitution policy. We also need to support all our arms of production in the economy so that we can have a scenario where demand is outstripped by supply, as opposed to the current situation where we are facing challenges in the supply of selected commodities. We also need confidence around the currency issue. We probably have had pronouncements around the currency before, which have stabilized the economy, which have stabilized.
But still on the currency, you mentioned something very profound. You were asking how it is that the black market or parallel market can thrive to the point of having all the money while it's not available in the bank, having all the foreign currency while it's not available in the banks. What impact does that have, especially on your sector, the retail sector?
It affects the whole economy. This negates progress in terms of economic development. It also speaks to the rising and growth of the informalization of the economy, which is happening under our watch.
So what needs to be done?
We need to make sure that, for example, sector, it is growing, but we need to look at ways of incentivizing them so that they can actually formalize. All the traders, for example, should register. All businesses must be registered, and that can actually take a lot of coordination by all the stakeholders, government and the private sector. Because what we have is an unfortunate situation where we make very good policies for this declining formal sector, Yet those policies cannot police the growing informal sector.
On that note, we come to the end of the second segment. Please join us in the third and final segment. Welcome to the third and final segment of Economic Forum. Mr. MUTASHU, a family in an urban area requires, according to the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe, $790 per month for groceries and basic survivals. Now that is obviously way beyond what an average family can afford.
It certainly speaks to the economic challenges that we've faced as a nation. And if you look at pricing currently is a phenomena of demand and supply. Market forces have to determine how much a product has got to fetch on the market. Unfortunately, when you leave the market or when you leave pricing to the ravages and remnants of market forces, you have a situation where an average individual earns 400 RTGS dollars, and yet requiring 800 RTGS dollars to finish off a month in terms of a family, for an average family of 6. It is not a pleasing situation. It is not an environment that we wish to create, but unfortunately that is...
So how can we create a win-win situation whereby your members, the retailers, are happy and the consumers are happy?
What we basically need in the economy, we need patient capital that is directed towards the productive sector. We need the productive sector to have serious aid in terms of working capital. We also need various support as far as the issue of foreign currency is concerned. And I'm sure before we came on set, we were talking about the proliferation of the Umalaishas, those truck drivers, as well as independent private drivers that are bringing in a lot of basic commodities from South Africa, most especially. That is a phenomena of something that is not right in our pricing, something that is not right in the cost of production, something that is not right on the supply situation of the basic commodities. So what we basically want right now is to focus, zero in on those issues. What is it that which is making our environment more expensive to produce? Yes, now we welcome the RTGS dollars because what it means is that they will make the environment much less costly in terms of on the manufacturer. But that is just one intervention. We need a holistic approach to all these issues, like we spoke about sourcing or domesticating raw material sourcing. Let's produce from the land that we have. Those that are not producing from the land that they have been given should actually leave and leave for those that can produce. And we need raw materials to be coming from our farms. Remember, way back, 60% of the raw materials that went into the manufacturing sector used to come from agriculture. But now we continue to import maize. Why should we be importing wheat? Why should we be importing soybeans? And even the small grains. Right now, if you speak to those manufacturers that are doing peanut butter, the raw materials from Malawi, how should we be buying produce from Malawi to get it, to take it into the manufacturing sector? So we've got a lot of work. We need to focus on many aspects of the economy that we spoke about. The currency predictability is one thing that is quite key. At the time that we stayed on 1:1, others believed we should have moved at a much faster rate. Now that we have moved, again, we are facing some challenges with the interbank at the earliest stage. So we need to actually be very flexible when we address these issues.
Yes, you were talking about issues to do with Umalaisha. And these are people that bring groceries from South Africa, Botswana, to different parts of Zimbabwe. Now, how much is that activity a threat to your membership or to your existence?
It is not only a threat to our membership, it is a threat to the country, it's a threat to the economy, because very soon we will have manufacturers producing for no one because the market is gone. And we are supporting other industries out of the country, and that is not something that we want, and that's something that we not wish to be able to continue doing, because we need serious job creation. We need to create jobs for our economy, our people, our youth out there. A lot of them are unemployed. Women there should be capacitated, and the various provinces must actually be producing. We have seen that, the starting to focus on production from the central, like in the urban area, is failing. Let's also have projects that are coming from various provinces building into the national production.
There was at one time the Statutory Instrument 64, and it was received with a lot of complaints it was supported by some, there were those who were against it. What are your views as regards such interventions, such government interventions?
Of course, there was a lot of corruption on the issuing of the permits under SI 64, and what we believe is that when we unbundled it, it did not then give us the expected results, because we were anticipating that the flow of goods from out of the country or elsewhere was going to increase, and we had businesses bringing in lots of goods to support the local market. But that did not happen because people and companies' business did not have the foreign currency for them to be able to import the goods. So again, it did not benefit, or it did not give us the benefits that we anticipated to gain, because the country still has continued to face foreign currency challenges.
You are at the head of this organization, the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers. Going forward, what then do you think needs to be done? Because we are obviously in a challenging situation or environment. What do you think therefore needs to be done when you meet, whether it's government officials or as industry? Going forward, what do you think needs to be done to get us out of this?
We need to continue to focus on retooling. We also need to have a robust export strategy. And we need to stop importing certain goods that we are deliberately bringing in, because probably
such as
toothpicks and other trinkets, because we are generally it tells you that we are just lazy to produce those goods if we continue to be dependent on other economies to produce them for us. We also need patient capital, like I indicated. And
you may want to explain patient capital.
Well, if you look at the local financial system, what we get in terms of support into industry is short term, but you don't want capital that is actually quite short term. Overall, we need to continuously look at how we can grow confidence, trust in the economy, because that has been lacking and it has caused a lot of speculation.
And any final words, Mr. MUTASHU?
Zimbabwe is ours to build, and we need to continue to focus on rebuilding the economy, and let's work together. The private sector can do more than it's currently doing. We cannot, of course, focus on this blame game, because the moment that we focus on blame game, it means we have been defeated by the challenges that we are facing as an economy.
A clarion call for all Zimbabweans to come together and build the Zimbabwe we all want. Those are the words from the president of the Confederation of Zimbabwe Retailers, Mr. DENFORD MUTASHU. That brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Economic Forum. From myself, Foster Dongozi, and the crew behind the scenes, pleasant viewing.